Welcome back to the Bernard Lee Poker Show. The 2021 live version of the World Series is, gosh, can you believe it? Almost halfway. And we wanted to get more impressions of the World Series of Poker. I was out there for about a week, but this gentleman has been there the entire time, and he is grinding away, playing some events, but primarily reporting on this 2021 World Series of Poker. The executive editor, US for PokerNews. Welcome back to the show once again, good friend, Chad Holloway. Chad, thanks for joining us here on the Bernard Lee Poker Show, my friend.
Bernard, it's always a pleasure. I really appreciate it. Always joining you on the show and having a chance to talk WSOP. It's exciting. You know, we're back after having a hiatus in 2020, or at least not having a traditional live one here at the Rio. So it's been exciting. And like you said, it's about halfway through. I think yesterday marked my halfway day as far as when I arrived in Vegas and when I leave Vegas. So it's all downhill from here as far as hopefully, you know, sailing and getting this thing closed out.
You know, a lot of trepidation coming into the World Series this year. Obviously, a lot about COVID, why we didn't come last year. Then there was concerns and thoughts and announcements that if you weren't vaccinated, you got COVID or were near somebody that COVID, that you would have to have been disqualified, et cetera, et cetera. But then the mandate of the vaccine. Everyone's got to get the vaccine. And so a lot of the fears were taken away. I'll be honest, I've said this on the show before, that the only reason I went was because of that mandate. And I know I talked to a lot of people when I was out there. They said the same thing. They said until that happened, they weren't coming out there. You know, my initial impressions were that it was actually kind of business as usual. There were definitely some things that were a little slower, but I kind of want to hear from your opinion. And let's start from the beginning. The reunion was the big first event. It was the first big weekend. What did you feel when you arrived at the World Series from the beginning? Did it feel the same? Did it feel slightly different? Like, kind of, what's your thoughts?
I think that the biggest difference right from the get-go was the requirement that everybody had to prove their vaccination status.
Sure.
And there were some growing pains with that and how it worked with registration. Those all seem to be ironed out now. Everybody seems to, for the most part, to be in the system. There's not as long of lines. Registration isn't taking as long as it was in those first few days. And then you mentioned the reunion. That was going to be the first big test, you know, a $500 buy-in tournament with a $5 million guarantee. Are they going to hit it? That's what everybody was wondering.
Right.
There were a lot of skeptics, and it hit it. It 12,973 runners, I believe it was, and it created almost a $5.5 million prize pool. So to me, that was like, all right, that's the first big one, the big test, if you will, and it passed it. It was kind of setting the tone for the WSOP. Granted, some of the numbers have been down 30%, give or take, for some of the events, but that was right on expectations. I don't think that has much to do with people not wanting to get vaccinated. Sure, there are some of those out there, and that certainly makes up part of it. But I think the biggest part of that was the travel bans, the different travel restrictions from various countries, which we are still seeing, that are supposedly getting lifted here in early November. I'm sure we'll talk about it, you know, the WSOP calling an audible and adding a couple main event flights to cater to those guys. So I think for the most part, it does feel like business as normal right now. At the start, though, it definitely was a little bit of growing pains with everybody getting their vaccination proof and getting that all in the system.
And we've seen this before. Let's make sure that we're not people who haven't gone to the World Series and are not going this year are looking at it as a complete negative, because we've seen these growing pains before. When they had the Colossus the first time, I mean, it was a zoo. It was an absolute zoo. People couldn't even play because they didn't even have enough seats. They were told you can't play in this flight and all that stuff. So usually that first event of the year is absolute pandemonium. And I think the one big thing, like you said, was people weren't expecting literally hours waiting to get this vaccine, approved and verified, et cetera. Jack Effel was on the show last week and said they did go through some growing pains, and I think that they made it. I've told everyone, there are a few people that I know are going out for the seniors event and other events, the main event, et cetera. I told them all, listen, first thing, go get your vaccination verified. Second thing, when you do it, don't do it when they start the registration for a 10 or 11 o'clock event. How about you do it at 10 or 11 o'clock at night where there's no one in line and it's very simple. Obviously, the fast track is something that's a positive as well. The funniest thing is, as I was telling Jack Eiffel last week, this has been going on for like 3 or 4 years. I've been doing this for the whole time. So the fact that everyone's making a big deal about it now, I don't understand. It's been going on, but I'm glad that more people are doing it. You touched upon it, and why don't we just go right to that? There has been a travel ban. A lot of Europeans aren't here. I know some Europeans did come in and either go to another country before they came here, like Mexico or Canada, or they came here and you know, they were basically in quarantine for a while before they started playing. But a lot of Europeans aren't here. But that travel ban is going to be lifted early November. So the World Series decided to add a Flight E and Flight F to the day ones. A lot of people thought, oh, that's going to push the whole World Series main event out 2 days. It really only pushes it 1 day because they moved day 2A, B, and I think it's D 1 day. And then they moved everything else out. There was a break in between the final table. That's now been eliminated. And also day 1F and day 1-2, I think it's A, B, D are going to be played on the same day. So really not that much of a change in the schedule. And I think it's good. I mean, it should add, I'm just going to guess here, at least 500 more entries. That's my guess. What do you think?
I think that's probably a fair line. And I'm excited about it. I think it shows some good flexibility and adaptability on the WSOP's part. We knew that the travel ban was likely to get lifted or altered at some point while the WSOP was going on. And we were all hoping it would be like November 1st as opposed to November 8th. But, you know, the WSOP willing to be on their toes, quick on their toes, if you will, and do this to cater to those players. I think it's great. Not only you know, from getting the European contingent and other countries around the world the opportunity to play the main event, but just bolstering the main event a little bit without doing anything too crazy, if you will. You know, making it re-entry or something like that, which absolutely everyone would hate. I think everybody's fine with adding a couple flights to cater to it, and it just gives people more options, right? Like more flexibility for even the Americans to if they make a day 2 at a different tournament or what have you, just more options does seem to be better.
Oh, and also now, it used to be about 5-6 years ago, the World Series main event was the last event. So that was it. You get knocked out of that, you go home. But now with all the, what I call post-liminaries and events leading right up to it, I mean, it's like, okay, well, I'll just play day 1E instead of day 1B, and I can play these events before. And if I get knocked out, I can. So I think a lot of that really didn't change many people. If anything, it just made people happy. I really haven't heard one complaint. A lot of people were excited about it. Talking about the events themselves, you had said the registration's down about 20-30%. But when I played in these events during that week, in all honesty, it really felt similar. It didn't feel very different at all. The turnouts were there, no limit wise. I mean, we had them during the week in the thousands of entries. I was surprised. I'll be honest with you. I was really surprised. I really thought they would be down. The one thing I will say that I see it as is that, and I want to see if you agree or not, because you've obviously been out there longer, is that the tournaments themselves pretty much the same, like, you know, 20-30% down. That's primarily, again, because of the European contingency not there. But it seems like the other events that surround the World Series, the daily deep stacks, the sit and goes, the cash games, literally no spectator. I mean, barely any spectators, right? And that's primarily because of vaccine. Those are all down. So because of that, it doesn't seem as buzzing as it was in the past. I mean, there have been days, years, where I've gone by the sit and go area and it's completely full. I know the guys who run the sit and goes, and they're just running around with their heads cut off going, this is crazy. Like, okay, 175 sit and go, 525 sit and go, $80 sit. I mean, just nuts. The daily deep stack sometimes had over 1,000 people. First prize, $30,000, $40,000, just absolutely crazy. Those numbers seem a little bit down, and it's almost like those are the casual people who come to the World Series to kind of go to the World Series, say they went, say they experienced it. And I think that in today's world, people are like, I don't need to experience it during COVID. I can come back another time. Do you kind of agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's really accurate. I'm actually not far right now from those cash games and those satellite areas and the daily deep stack area, and 100% spot on. It's definitely down. It's not as busy anytime I walk by. And I think it's like you said, just a lot of that casual base is staying home. We'll wait till next year when things aren't quite as chaotic. Whereas the other players who are here playing the bracelet events are more serious players. You know, you have your professional poker players, or people who, yeah, they might travel in, they're recreational, but they're serious recreational people. I also think the other part of that might be the other offerings about town. There's a good slate of tournaments happening, you know, at the Wynn, Venetian, at the Orleans. You had the Golden Nugget finished up their series as well. And those numbers have been very solid all around. So I just think a lot of those casual players are playing at those different places. I know Aria is another one that has another series. So I think that has a lot to do with it as well. There are a lot of options happening every day. And so it's hard to maybe get them to sit here in the daily deep stack here when for the same price, they can go play something maybe a little juicier elsewhere. And then the cash game situations too. I don't know exactly because I haven't had a lot of time to play much cash around here, but I have been at the Wynn, I have been at Venetian, and it does seem like their cash games are going strong. So
I think also one of the other things is that at the World Series, no matter what you do, whether you play tournaments or cash or whatever, you have to have your vaccination. Some of the other rooms, that's not the case. You don't have to. And so again, I'm probably pro-vaccine, so I was very pleased with that, as I said, because that's why I went. I think there are others that may not be on that same side of the fence, and they are like, I don't want to worry about that. And so some of them may be going to elsewhere. Again, the possible other explanation.
Yeah. And then the flip side, real quick, one of the benefits of playing a tournament here or a cash game here at the Rio is if you do prove that vaccination status, you don't have to wear a mask at the table like you do at the other places. So
right. So let's talk about the actual tournaments themselves. As I said, we're about halfway done, 88 bracelets. There'll be 11 online, technically 12, but one of them is only in Pennsylvania. Let's talk about some of the big storylines. And I'll be honest with you, I think there are a lot. There are a lot of storylines on there. I think the first big one is Phil Hellmuth. I mean, this is unbelievable. 5 final tables, 1 bracelet, runner-up. We'll talk about the person he came runner-up to. That's another great story as well. But Phil Hellmuth is leading player of the year. We know that this is something that has always been huge for him. It's eluded him, unfortunately. The year that Greg Merson won the main event, that was the only way he doesn't win player of the year. And coming into the World Series, he was hot. He had won numerous heads-up battles against players that no one thought he would be winning. He seems very focused. Did have an unfortunate Hellmuthian blow up at the final at one of the final tables, which he was definitely called out upon by the poker world. But having said that, it is amazing. I think amazing what he is doing. They're comparing his run to Jason Mercier's run of several years back, and we're only halfway done. What's your kind of thoughts about it?
Yeah, it's definitely been the story of this series is Phil Hellmuth. Look, when he's going deep, we're on like high alert, DEFCON 5 or what have you as a poker media, right? Like it's
right.
All right. If he's going to win this, we got to go, get the article up, get the social media out there because it's such a big story. Everybody wants to know about it. And he's been making so many deep runs that I feel like, man, I've been on DEFCON 5 for so long. I just want an easy night every once in a while.
It's almost like you when I look at it here online, it's almost like, oh, that must have been last time. Like this must like not be the same one. And it's almost like he wins or he final tables one. The next thing you know, he's at another one. And I really a couple times had to look, I go, is this really another one? It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And it's funny because it started out where he was getting close and you could tell he was getting frustrated. And, hence his blow up, I think, was the frustration boiling over. And then he finally breaks through and he wins number 16, which was just a very special moment. Anytime he wins, it's special. You could see how very excited he was. That was the 1500 no limit deuce to 7 single draw event. I know event you're a particular fan of. And so, and Hellmuth loved to get that bracelet. You know, it was a game he had never won in before. So that was very exciting. And then just a few days later, he makes a run at what was going to be number 17. And it looked like he was going to get the job done. And that was in the $10,000 Dealer's Choice Championship.
Right.
Ultimately, as you said, finished runner-up, but came so close to number 17. And it's just crazy because, like you said, all this success, he's claimed it's the best start he's ever had to a World Series of Poker. Clearly, that must be the case. Clearly, one of the best 2-week stretches any player's ever had at the World Series of Poker. And we're only halfway done, as you said. So he could still get number 17, could still get number 18. I'm sure there's at least a final table or two in store for him. You never know. He's clearly on his game right now. And I think Phil Hellmuth, it has been the big story of the 2021 WSOP thus far.
Yeah, let's talk about a couple other stories. One, almost won 17, but was denied by a gentleman who has now 4 bracelets himself. And the great story is he has won this title, and that was the 10K Dealer's Choice. He has won that title 3 times in a row. Normally we'd say 3 years in a row, but there was no 2020. But the last 3 times it has been held, 18, 19, 21, this gentleman, Adam Friedman, has won this 10K. That's incredible. I mean, it really is. And we're not just talking a random event. This is a championship 10K event with some of the best mixed game players in the world. And this gentleman has won it 3 times in a row. That's incredible. It really, I don't know what to say. I think it's just amazing.
It's one of the greatest accomplishments in World Series of Poker history.
I agree.
Me and Jeff Platt talked about it on the PokerNews podcast extensively, and I wasn't willing to say it's the greatest accomplishment, but it's definitely up there in like a top 5 moment. You know, Johnny Chan winning back-to-back main events and then finishing runner-up to Hellmuth in '89. That's huge. Michael Mizrahi winning the 50K Poker Players Championship 3 times. Another great thing. This accomplishment by Adam Friedman is right up there with all of that, in my opinion. It really, Adam's a great player already. He's, you know, multiple bracelets, as you said, a great mixed games cash game player. He's well respected in that community. He's won a couple MSPT titles, so his no limit mid stakes game is spot on as well. There's a lot to like about it, and I think just winning this was really cementing his legacy. And look, I don't know how old Adam is. He's right around my age, so 38, 39, maybe 40. But here's a guy who needs to get his hat in the ring as far as Poker Hall of Fame nominations, in my opinion, in the years to come. Others that we'll talk about, I'm sure, here too. Anthony Zeno, he's 40 now. Josh Aryeh, who just shipped another bracelet. A lot of guys this year are bolstering their poker resumes, if you will, now that they're hitting around that 40 mark, 40 years old mark, that they'll become Poker Hall of Fame eligible. And I think in coming years, we'll see their name grace that nomination list.
I mean, a couple other players who have quietly done very well at this World Series, probably overshadowed by Anthony Zeno and Phil Hellmuth. Jake Schwartz, who has made multiple final tables himself, losing out to Phil Hellmuth. And then Ryan Lang winning his 3rd bracelet. And I mean, these two gentlemen, not, you know, household names among us poker players. We all know who they are, but they're not the Phil Hellmuths, the Daniel Negreanu's of the world. But these guys are having incredible World Series. And just to put it in perspective, you've got Phil Hellmuth leading player of the year, but Anthony Zeno, Jake Schwartz, Ryan Lang, Ari Engel, who we had on the show just recently winning a bracelet. These guys are all within striking distance of player of the year. When I say within striking distance, I'm talking basically 1 win or 1 deep run at a final table, and they're going to overtake Phil. So Phil can't obviously rest on his laurels, but it has definitely been a World Series. And I think it's from what we talked about. There aren't as many amateurs out here. There are the pros, the players who are significantly playing a lot. And you're seeing people who have won bracelets previously just adding to their jewelry case and adding more. Like you said, Josh Aryeh also adding one, etc. You've obviously had some first-time winners. Jason Kuhn was probably the one where you got to take his name off of best player without a bracelet, right? And I think he was probably top 5, if not top 3 on that list. And now he got to take his name off of that list. But a lot of people winning bracelets for the X time. It's not first time, for the second, third time, right?
That's true. And there have been a lot of first-time winners, like you mentioned, just real quick, like Dylan Lind and DJ Alexander are a couple that pop up to me. But
we have DJ Alexander on this week. Obviously, people have just listened to the who are listening to the podcast. They just heard him on talking about it as well. Yeah, you're right.
Right. And Mike Norrie, one other one. But then you're right. People were winning multiple bracelets, or you're not winning multiple bracelets this year, but adding to their collection. David Baker. Yep. Jim Colopy. Yep. John Manette, Jim Colopy, Chance Corneth. There's a lot of guys that have been adding, as you said, and I don't know the exact number. There's a bunch that were adding like their third bracelets. I know some that were adding their fourth as well. Yuval Bronstein was another.
Jeremy Osmus, who we had on a couple of weeks ago.
And so I did predict early in a PokerNews prediction piece for the 2021 World Series of Poker, basically this. They said, what will this be the year of? And I said it would be like the year of the pro, because we speculated that the recreational attendance would be down, the pros would not. And I think that's being reflected here, in that we're seeing a lot of established names, a lot of established poker professionals winning bracelets. Kevin Gearhart just the other night won his third WSOP bracelet by taking down the $10,000 horse event. And so that's been pretty cool to see. But as we just said, it's sprinkled in with enough amateurs and enough first-time bracelet winners to really keep it balanced. And I always get a kick looking back at the bracelet winners list at the end of each WSOP and seeing those players who have captured WSOP gold. And I think this year's list at the halfway mark is super strong, is super solid and well represented. And then even if you look at the runner-ups in a lot of events, like AJ Kelsock finished runner-up in an event. He was the defending global casino championship. Ankush Mandavia, you had David Williams finishing runner-up in an event. So the runner-up list is also strong. Connor Drynan finished runner-up to Ryan Lang, and I think it was event number 23, and Connor Drynan had won event number 5 earlier in the series. So he almost became a 2-time bracelet winner at the 2021 World Series of Poker. Michael
Adamo, who is having an unbelievable last couple of months, obviously winning the big events at the Poker Masters, and now taking home his third bracelet as well. It's just really been an incredible World Series already. And like you said, we're only halfway home. You and I could talk forever. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. But what I'd like to do is, in a couple of weeks, when we're getting close to the World Series main event or during the main event, I'd like to bring you back on the show, because listen, as many stories as we've had in the first 2 or 3 weeks, there are going to be just as many, if not more, in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And I think it's important that my listeners hear it from somebody who is there on the ground every single day seeing it. So I'd love to have you back on the show in a few weeks to talk more 2021 World Series of Poker, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, Bernard, I would absolutely love to. And I would love to, at that moment, we should know who is inducted into the Poker Hall of Fame.
That's right.
It would be great to talk about that, because I know that's a topic that's very near and dear to both of our hearts. So it's definitely going to be an exciting second half to this WSOP. And I look forward to talking to you about it later on.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And like you said, so many people are interested in the Poker Hall of Fame as well. And that'll always be an interesting scenario with regards to the finalists being announced recently. Just so everyone knows, Elio Lesra, Antonio Sfondiari, Chris Ferguson, Lane Flack, obviously sentimental as he just passed away, Ted Forrest, Bertrand Grospellier, Elke, Mike Mattisau, Michael the Grinder Mizrahi, first time as he is eligible, and that's definitely a big name there. Matt Savage, who has been a perennial finalist, and Issei Scheinberg, of course, the founder of Poker Stars. So that we'll find out who of that group will get in. But Chad, thanks so much. Really appreciate it, as always, joining us and giving us the insight, my friend.
Thanks, Bernard. It's been a pleasure, and I'll see you out here soon.
I hope so. And hope everyone is enjoying the interviews from the 2021 World Series of Poker. Stay tuned next week. We'll continue our interviews. And as always, may you always go in with the best hand and may you never get unlucky. Good night, everybody. And also for people who are watching on YouTube, if you are enjoying these interviews and all of the videos, please like and subscribe below. Thanks, everyone.